How to crochet a dishcloth using the linen or moss stitch. We are going to go ahead and get started with our dishcloth today by making a slip knot. Now I have linked the written pattern down in the description box below, as well as links to all of the materials that I'm going to be using in today's tutorial, so be sure to check that out if needed. Okay, so I have made a slip knot. Now we are going to chain 2 and begin row 1. For row 1, we are going to simply place 3 single crochet stitches into the second chain from the hook. So we're going to skip this first chain and place 3 single crochet stitches into that second one. And there's 2 and 3. And there we go. There's row 1. This dishcloth is worked corner to corner. So we have started right at the teensy little corner over here. Now we're going to start row 2. We're going to chain 2 and turn. And then into this first stitch, we are going to work 1 single crochet. So I am just going to single crochet right into that first stitch. And then I'm going to chain 1, skip the next stitch. So we are going to not work into the second one. And then into this very last stitch on the edge here. It can be a little bit snug, so just be sure to get through both of those loops. Into this very last stitch, we are going to work a single crochet, a chain 1, and then another single crochet. Just like so. And that's all there is to it for row 2. Now for row 3, we are actually going to start our repeat. So we're going to work row 3, and then we're going to repeat those instructions until we have a total of 25 rows. Or you can make the dishcloth larger by working more rows or smaller by working less. It's completely up to you. So for row 3, we are going to chain 2 and turn. We are going to single crochet into this first chain 1 space. So if you look closely, you can see that in between these 2 single crochet stitches, there's a chain 1 space. It can be a little bit hard to tell for these first couple of rows just because we're increasing a lot and everything is a little bit tight. And then to add on top of that, everything is small. So it's just a little bit hard to tell. But stick with me because it's going to get a lot easier in the coming rows. So I've chained 2, I've turned my work. Now I am going to single crochet into that chain 1 space. Just like that. And then I'm going to chain 1 and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Now I'm going to repeat that until I get to the very last chain 2 space, which is the chain 2 that we worked at the beginning of the last round. So this is going to be my last stitch for the row. Now for me, for row 3, you will only have this 1 stitch. Obviously this will grow as the dishcloth grows, but the first couple of rows are very, very short. So I have reached the end of my row. I'm at this final chain 2 space. Into that space, I'm going to work a single crochet. If I can get my hook in there. There we go. I'm going to work a single crochet, a chain 1, and then another single crochet. And that is my increase, and that helps keeps the edges nice and straight. So like I said, we're going to repeat row 3 until we have a total of 25 rows. So I'm going to work it a couple more times with you so that you can get the hang of it. I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work a single crochet in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and repeat that until I reach my final chain 2 space. So I'm going to skip the next single crochet stitch, work a single crochet into that next chain 1 space, chain 1, work a single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and now I am at the end of my row. I have reached that chain 2 space. So into that, I'm going to work a single crochet, a chain 1, and then another single crochet. I'm going to work it one more time with you. Chain 2 and turn. Work a single crochet into that first chain 1 space. Chain 1. Work a single crochet into the next chain 1 space. Chain 1. Work a single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and into the next as well, chain 1, and then into that very last chain 2 space, I'm going to insert my hook and work a single crochet, a chain 1, and then another single crochet. And that's all there is to it. So I am just going to go repeat row 3 until I have a total of 25 rows. Now that is the amount that I have listed in the written pattern, which again you can find down in the description box. But if you want to make your dishcloth smaller, simply work less rows. If you want it to be larger, simply work more rows. So if you make it smaller, it could be like a washcloth or a coaster, something along those lines. If you do it larger, you could do a blanket if you make it big enough, or a whole bunch of squares and sew them together. This is written to be a dishcloth, but you could easily turn it into many, many beautiful things. Okay, so I am going to go work row 3 until I have a total of 25 rows, and then I will meet you back here to work the next section, the decrease section. Okay, so I just finished row 25, and this is what my dishcloth currently looks like. So basically what we're going to do now, we have increased our dishcloth as big as it's going to be, and then now we're going to start decreasing it back down to form a square. Really, really simple. So just like we did for row 3, we're going to repeat this next row until we have a total of 49 rows. So this is going to be row 26. I'm going to show you how to do it a couple of times, and then I'll leave you to it and come back on row 50 to finish off our dishcloth. Okay, so for row 26, we are going to chain 2 and turn, just like we've been doing. Now we are going to skip this very first chain 1 space. So it's going to act as our decrease for the row. We're not going to work into it, simply skip right over it, and we're going to work into the next one. And then we're just going to chain 1 and work into the next chain 1 space. And we're going to do this all the way across, including the final chain 2 space in the row. So I'm just going to continue repeating this all the way across my entire dishcloth. We're not going to do any more increasing now, only decreasing again to form it back down into a square. So I'm just going to continue working in this manner, and then I'll meet you back here when I get to that chain 2 space. Okay, so I have just a couple of stitches left. I have chained 1. I'm going to work into this final chain 1 space, and then I'm going to chain 1 again and work into this chain 2 space from the beginning of the previous row. And that's all I'm going to do. Just one single crochet, no more increasing. Again, we are just decreasing back down into a square now. Okay, so we are just going to repeat that row until we have a total of 49 rows. I'm going to show it to you once more. Chain 2 and turn. Skip the very first chain 1 space. So we're not going to work into this space right here. We're going to skip right over it and work into the next one. And then we're going to chain 1 and work into the next chain 1 space all the way across, including that chain 2 space there at the very end. It'll be a little bit easier to see now because it's going to look a little bit bigger just because we skipped that first chain 1 space. You'll notice that the stitches are just a little bit less crowded at the ends in the decrease section rather than the increase section, which is kind of nice, I think. Alright, I am getting near to the end of this row here. This stitch is one of my absolute favorites. I can just get into such a good rhythm with it. And it's so fun. Like, I am itching to make so many projects with this stitch. Okay, so I'm working into that final chain 1 space. I'm going to chain 1 one last time and then work into this chain 2 space here at the very end by just placing one single crochet stitch into it. And that's all there is to it. So once again, I'm going to go off camera, work this same row, our row 26 repeat, until we have 49 total rows. And then I will meet you back here for row 50 and finishing off our dishcloth. Okay, so I have worked through row 49 and now I'm ready for row 50, which is our very last row. So I've already chained 1. I'm going to go ahead and turn my work. We're just going to chain 1 for this row. And now I'm going to single crochet 2 together using this chain 1 space and this chain 2 space. And all this is going to do is round off this corner. So I'm going to insert my hook into this first chain 1 space and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to insert my hook into the chain 2 space and pull up a loop again. And then I'm just going to yarn over and pull through all 3 of those loops. And again, all that does is work a single crochet 2 together to round off that corner. Alrighty, so now the crochet part of our dishcloth is done. Now, if you wanted to work a single crochet border around the entire dishcloth here, you could totally do that. It's completely up to you. I personally like the look of the edges being kind of, not rough, but just simple. I just really like the way that it looks. So I'm going to leave it exactly how it is. Just know that if you wanted to add that row, you totally could. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is snip this yarn and then weave in my ends. So I'm going to grab my scissors here and leave just a little bit of a tail and trim that. And then I'm just going to yarn over and pull through and grab my yarn needle here, thread it through this strand of yarn, and I'm just going to go through a few of the stitches on the back side here. Really no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just going to go through a few until I think that the tail is nice and secure and not going to go anywhere. One thing that I do want to mention is dishcloths get a lot of use. So you want to be sure to just kind of split the yarn often, go in and out of many stitches, again, just to make sure that that end is not going to come undone with long-term use. Okay, so there's the first end. I'm going to flip it over to the opposite side here and work this end that I started with. I'm going to do the same exact thing, go through a few stitches to make it nice and secure so that it doesn't come undone. And I'm just kind of splitting the yarn a little bit in some of the stitches, going in between stitches, just kind of all the things to make sure that that doesn't come undone. And now I'm just going to trim those as close to the work as possible without cutting the work, because obviously that would be very unfortunate. And there we go. So dishcloths aren't typically in need of blocking. However, if you are gifting it and you want it to look especially nice or something along those lines, you could totally just take one blocking mat and pin out the edges here, dampen it a little bit, and then it will lie nice and straight in the future. But there we go. There is our finished dishcloth. You found this tutorial helpful and enjoyable to follow along with, and I also hope that you love your finished object. Be sure that I have included all of the links to the materials that I used, the materials that you'll need, and all of the links to the pattern in the description box below, as well as links to my other social media platforms and pattern shops. So just be sure to check all of that out if you are so desired to do so. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any future tutorials, and then click that notification bell right beside it so that you get a little alert every time I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy making. Bye!